Hey y'all, Ryan here. I want to do a quick video on how you can easily create highly correlated lineups with the solver using some simple stacking rules. So first and foremost, under the optimizer settings right here, setting up our primary stack is pretty straightforward. If we click quarterback stack and game stack, that will ensure that our quarterbacks are paired with at least one of their wide receivers or tight ends, and there is at least one running back, wide receiver, or tight end from the opponent. You'll notice that the advanced settings right here went from 0 to 2 when I selected these. So if we head into the advanced settings under stacks, you'll notice I have these two rules right here. These are implemented simply by clicking those two buttons. Had I not clicked those wouldn't be there. And if we want, we can change these rules and fine tune them to our liking. So for instance, if you want to remove the running back from the opponent side of it, so you just want wide receivers and tight ends, simply just remove the running back or add the running back. You can include or exclude teams. So if we didn't want to include some of our, more scramble prone or rushing prone quarterbacks like Baltimore, so Lamar or whoever else it might be that we think potentially is going to limit their pass catcher's upside, and we don't want to stack them with like 2 or 3, we want to only stack them with 1, we could do the exclusion here. So we can fine tune there. Now, what's really cool is we can also set up some secondary stacks. So if we want some mini correlations, as they're commonly referred to, we can add another rule. So if we hit the green plus button right here, this will allow us to add another rule. And what we can do is stack a wide receiver with exactly one wide receiver or tight end from the opponent. So we'll change quarterback to wide receiver, and we'll set it with exactly one wide receiver or tight end from the opponent. Now you can obviously do the include or exclude here as well, but we'll keep it pretty straightforward for this example. This rule would ensure that we are always stacking a wide receiver or tight end with the opponent that is not attached to the quarterback stack. So let's run a few of these lineups. Let's just create 10 lineups. You could do 100, 150, 500, whatever it is. And let's see what examples we get. So if we just create these 10 lineups right here, you'll notice we have Jared Goff. So it looks like we've got Detroit and Chicago as that primary stack. But somewhere in here, we should have a mini stack. So there's Goff, Amon-Ra, and Cole Kmet. And you'll notice right here, we have this mini stack of Arizona, Atlanta. So Drake London and Greg Dortch. Let's cruise over here. You can see the same thing, Detroit, Chicago, but Zay Jones and Brandon Cooks as this mini stack, right? Now, looks like we're also getting ETN here, so we could set up some more rules that would ensure that when this mini correlation is going, we could look to exclude some running backs. But I'm going to show you the way that I prefer to set up these mini correlations, especially in large field tournaments when you're creating 150 lineups or potentially even 300 and running those over multiple sets of mass multi-entry type contest. I don't really want to force this mini correlation. I don't necessarily think it's super plus EV to force it in the big contests like that. I think in smaller field contests, being highly correlated is great, but we would also look to be building our main stacks with, probably 2 pass catchers and a bring back. So different conversation for a different subject matter. But let me show you another way that you can build some of these correlated lineups. So if I go back into my advanced settings, I'm going to remove this rule, and I'm actually going to go to the if-then rules under my player groups, and I'm going to add an if-then. Now, this means you have to be a little bit more intricate and spend a little bit more time, but that's where the edge is, right? Spending the time, building the lineups. putting in the work. I think, the solver does so many great things for us automatically, but this was definitely one of those things where let's spend a little bit of time. So let's go back up to the slate, and this is an old slate from 2022, and let's just grab an example. So, okay, we've got Justin Jefferson here at Green Bay. So what I would do is, if I wanted to make sure that if a lineup contains any Justin Jefferson, I want to boost any of those Green Bay pass catchers. So it would be somebody like Watson, it would be Dobbs, it would be Tunyon and Lazard, right? Those would be the Green Bay pass catchers that we would most likely be looking to use in 2022 from Green Bay. So what this will do is then boost these Green Bay pass catchers by, and whatever the percentage is would simply increase their projections. So we could do something a little bit conservative with 15%. We could really try and force it in there with 50%. So let's just kind of split the difference and go with 30% there. And that way, when our projections in the solver give us Justin Jefferson in a lineup, it's going to boost these Green Bay pass catchers by 30%, meaning it is more likely that we will get some of those highly correlated lineups throughout our 150, 300, 500, whatever it might be, set of lineups that we're going to look to mass enter. Or perhaps if you're like me, you kind of use the solver as a tool to see what types of lineups you will get. Now, we may not get any Justin Jefferson here, so there's a chance that we don't actually even see that coming into play. For the sake of example, I could lock Justin Jefferson, but you get the idea that this is a way to not force the secondary stack into every lineup. And I just think that might be a little bit more of a plus EV way of going about it, considering, we're not always right. So why should we be forcing these mini stacks? But that's one way to do it. And then you would simply just create another group. So if I wanted to make sure that every time Stephon Diggs is in a lineup, I'm getting more of the Cincinnati pass catchers, I would do the exact same thing. I would, if lineup contains Diggs. And now you could also do Khalil, right? So you could do Khalil Shakir in here, and who did I? Cincinnati. So, right. So we would do somebody like Jamar. Oops. Oh man, typing's hard. Do somebody like Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Boyd, and maybe just leave it at that, and we could boost. Now, here's the other thing: if you don't want to leave it to the off chance of randomness of by boosting, you could say then use exactly one of Jamar, T, or Tyler Boyd. That's another way to get the mini correlation in here. Now, keep in mind, this still isn't forcing it the way that the positional stack did. This is still just saying, if that lineup happens to contain Diggs or Shakir, then you must use one of Jamar, T, or Tyler Boyd. So we're still not forcing it, but if the lineup has this, then we are forcing it. I hope that makes sense. So look, I think that is a great way to get some highly correlated lineups. There's obviously so many other different things that we can do here in the solver, but I want to keep this as short and sweet as possible. And I think, just to kind of recap, the tips for creating highly correlated lineups are: use the advanced settings tab to fine-tune your stacking rules. Consider using if-then rules to create more natural correlations, and experiment with different stacking strategies to see what works best for you. And that's all done in the advanced settings under stacks and player groups. You can do restrictions, stats by team. There's lots of different things here to start creating those highly correlated lineups. So run good. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to hit me up. I'm more than happy to answer.